Get to know Ronke Majekodunmi. She's an incredible senior product manager at PayPal.
Wow, let's dive on in. Ronke Majekodunmi, welcome to the Chundria show. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, you are great. You're doing amazing things. We're going to go ahead and chat about that today. And so I'm curious to know, like, what inspired you about tech as a young girl?
So, I've always been a nerd my whole entire life, and a bookworm. So, anything technical, like with computers, I've always wanted to figure it out,
Mhm.
and books. So, it kind of started young for me. I would never forget my English teacher who introduced me to my first love of books, right? To the first books. So, after I graduated from, believe it or not, after I graduated from college, my major was in African American studies. I sort of just landed in tech. I was a technical support rep for a bankruptcy filing program. Back then I lived in Albany, New York, and then I just sort of from doing that I became the subject matter expert for the developers. They would come to me and go, "Hey, Ronki, do you know all the problems that Do you have a list of all the problems?" And I'll go, "Yeah, I have a list," and I would prioritize it for them. And so I just kind of started hanging out with the developers. And then a role became available. They needed somebody to help with that same bankruptcy filing program to do the forms. So I applied for it, I got it, and then I just started kind of embedded with the engineers. And that sort of started this progression for me. And then in that role, I was working with a product manager for that product. She was the face of it. She would go to conferences. And what I did was I would just study her. I literally was just like, I was like a sponge. I just wanted to know what was in her head. And then eventually she started to kind of delegate to me, like to call the bankruptcy court, do this, do that. And then she left that role, and then I became the product manager for it. And ever since then, I've been a product manager. I've moved from different organizations, but that's sort of how it started for me. It started with that love of wanting to figure things out, that curiosity, like, wait, that's not right. Let me go see. There's got to be other ways to figure that out. And it led to where I am today.
Wow, what a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing like your transparency of like how you were as a child and then, how it leads to, your role today. You are currently the senior product manager at PayPal. So what's a day in your life like in this role?
So for me, so I've always worked in fintech for most of my career. I've worked on B2B platforms and B2C platforms. And so my day to day is always different, right? Depending on what's going on. But for me, my day usually starts with what impacts the business, right? Is there something going on right now? Is there like a customer issue that is causing them for not being able to use their product? Then I got to go fix that. That's like the first thing, right? The second thing is making sure that the engineers have everything that they need and they're not waiting for me, right? So if that includes research, go figure something out, go talk to somebody, go talk to another team. That becomes my second priority of the day. And then a typical day for me could be like talking to other partners, right? Talking to my colleagues on the risk side, compliance side. It could be talking to customer service, or even going in with sales to go see how they're selling products and what people are looking for. It could be just visiting customers. So my day to day always differs, but the most important thing for me is usually what impacts the business, taking care of that first, and then moving on to do other research that I might need.
I love that. And I love that since you just have that natural knack for curiosity. I love that like the day presents a new challenge for you, at the start of everyone.
No day is ever the same, right? So no day is ever the same. And also that's the good thing about being a product manager is you have to be comfortable with ambiguity. And that literally is the land that we live in because you have to be there's that ambiguity and then you got to go figure out, okay, well, wait, what's going on? And then the biggest thing, of course, is, that customer empathy, right? You have to put yourself in the customer's shoes to sort of figure out what their pain point is, what's going on. And those are those kinds of things that I'm also working on throughout the day is, okay, how do we move from point A to point B? How do I solve this customer problem? And also not just solve it for today, but solve it for the future, right? So
Amazing. And it sounds like you're using a lot of your analytical skills as well, which I think is awesome. Now, you have an affinity for helping other minority women get into project management. Tell me more about that and why.
So The reason is because in the last year, so when we started going through the pandemic in 2020, I sort of focused on just my finishing my MBA, which was great. I did that. And then by fall, I was like, okay, I have all this time in my hands. What am I going to do? So then I did a product talk for product school. And then I wrote a blog. And then I started hearing from a lot of women of color on LinkedIn, right? And they would message me and they would go, wait, you look like me and you're in product. How is that even a thing? And that was just the thing. I didn't think it was a big deal that I was a woman of color in product. To me, it was just a normal thing. But I kept getting these messages and I thought, oh, well, this is wrong. I want women of color to know if I can be here, you can be here, right? And so that's when I sort of started this journey of creating my website, writing like personal blogs about imposter syndrome to let women of color know, you know what, it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to feel that anxiety when you first start as a product manager, because I kind of feel like imposter syndrome with a product manager role is sort of like it's more pronounced for me anyway. That was my experience, and here's how I got through it. And that's why I do a lot of what I do. I do a lot of product talks. I do even my own podcast. Is I just want a lot of women of color, aspiring product managers, or even like recent college grads who are thinking about coming into this field to see me take what I've done and just take it, run with it, and make it even better and pave the way for the next generation of women of color to come. So that's why I've been doing a lot of my stuff, a lot of my talks and stuff. So.
Oh, that is, you have such a beautiful spirit. I mean, because it's one thing to climb the ladder on your own, to create your own opportunities, but it's another to want to help someone else, get into a really great field. So I just wanted to take a moment just to explain like exactly what product management is, how universal this is across different industries. Can you explain that for anyone that may not have ever heard of this industry or field?
Sure. So to me, product management is a job of humans. That's it, right? So it's a job of humans, and here's what I mean by that. You have a set of customers, right? And they're using your products or services, or both in some cases, and they are gonna have needs, right? They're gonna need you to either enhance that product or build something new, right? The people that you work with to build it are also other human beings who have other things going on in their lives, and they're your engineers, they're your partners, on the marketing side, you name it, right? You have basically have to galvanize the whole entire organization to believe in your vision, that this is the right feature or product to build, and here's how it's going to differentiate us from the market. So I call it the job of humans, because you have to bring all these people together to solve your customer problem, right? So, and you also have to have empathy, not just for the people that you work with, especially with the pandemic, and it's because everybody's going through something, but also for your customers who are not only going through something, but they're also trying to run their business. Right. So that's why I call it a job of humans. It is universal. It's just every company does every company solves different problems. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're leading. You're leading to build awesome products, best in class products, so that your customers will stay with you, and also not just to react to that immediate problem, but to be proactive to solve future problems that they may have.
Awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying that. It really helps. And I believe that, I hope that someone watching is inspired by this topic today and just what you've shared. PayPal is such a universally recognizable company, so how does that feel working, in this way for such a popular corporation?
So I've been lucky that that I found PayPal when I did. They've been supportive of everything that I've been doing, not just within but outside as well, to help bring more minorities in, especially into product management. And also the other thing is I teach a product school, so I'm also teaching the next generation of product managers on how to lead, and again be that human job, and that and how to think about your customers and empathize with them, and also how to empathize with your own team as well. So they've been really supportive, and that's why I'm able to do a lot of what I'm doing right now. So I couldn't even ask for a better organization to work for. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Is it really challenging to get into the industry, in your opinion?
So I get a lot of questions like that from aspiring product managers. I don't think it is, right? And here's the reason why. Well, I think it's getting better. Let's put it that way. So when I first started, no one looked like me. right? I didn't have anybody that looked like me that I could go to in my job as a product manager, to say, hey, what is your experience like, right? So, but I will say this, I had mentors. I had four incredible women who just mentored me and they gave me advice even when I didn't want it. So, so that's why I'm here today. And I'm, again, trying to pass it on to other people. So I would say this, I've been looking at job resumes recently and I don't see MBA required anymore, right? Because that used to be the thing used to have MBA required, used to have, oh, you must be technical. And what happens is you have a pool of candidates, especially from marginalized communities, who don't apply for for those jobs anymore. But I'm noticing there's a change in that. And also the other thing is, there's a program at the University of Washington which focuses on marginalized communities and helping these students find jobs in product management, and we help them, with interviews and stuff. I on Tuesdays I help them get through the interview questions. So I don't think it is. I think there's a ton of resources out there. I mean, listen, for those listening to this, if you have any questions, please find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. I'm happy to direct you to a lot of resources out there. There are other folks that are doing what I'm doing that are visible in the product management space. All you have to do is just sync up with any one of us and we'll help you get through it. But it's not that hard anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Also, I heard something pivotal you said was get a mentor. You had a mentor, yes, and now you're working to mentor others. And I believe that beautiful part is what, pays it forward. It makes the world go round, and it promotes change as well when you're willing to help the next person. And then they help the next person, get better. And you will see more people of color in positions comparable to this. So I'll ask you, name something that you do to help women of color avoid pitfalls on their journey in any industry. How can women of color, women generally speaking as well, how can we get ahead in a lot of these male-dominated industries, in your opinion?
So that's a great question. And the good news, things are changing. Like I said, no one looked like me when I first started. Things are changing. I write a lot of blogs about, not just imposter syndrome, but mentoring, but also how to work with your team and how to lead, right? That's one thing. I focus a lot on leadership and the reason I do is because if I am a good leader, then I can use my leadership voice to change a situation, right? So that the next woman of color, man of color that comes after me, they have a different experience than I did, right? So that's what I would say is I use my leadership voice. I employ everybody to use their leadership voice because that's the only way you're going to change things is if you use your leadership voice. An example of that I'll give you is this. It is important that you have diversity in product management. What do I mean by that? Well, so if you think about it, right? If you are selling a global product, you're selling it to a global market around the world. Their demographic that you're selling it to are changing. Their needs are changing every day. So you have to meet them where they are. How do you do that? You have to have a team that looks like your customer. So because you need, they all come from diverse experiences, diverse geography, diverse background, diverse circumstances, and you need all their perspective to come into this product that you're building because you're not building just for one group, right? That's what I mean by using that leadership voice. If your product management team doesn't look like your customers, it's you, that product manager, that leader to say, hey guys, okay, let's rethink this. Let's make sure that as we're interviewing people, there's more diversity in the room so that whoever's coming in the door knows that we're a diverse organization, right? Let's have more diversity in management. So that's what I mean. If it's not there, and if you don't use your voice, there is no change. Then how can you help the next generation?
My dear, you are definitely promoting change. I'm so grateful that you are using your position at PayPal to also help others become the best version of themselves in their career and also their personal lives. I mean, it's a great confidence builder when you can get opportunities like these to advance your career and also to help others. So I think that's stupendous what you're doing. Fellow MBA grad here. I got my MBA last year in November. I worked, it was the hardest year of my life, but I got through it. Speak to any other MBA grads or any other MBA students out there that have finished or that are working toward a degree. I know sometimes A lot of MBA grads don't immediately get those positions, especially if you don't have business or tech experience. What are some tips that you have just before we go today of how an MBA student or grad, can advance their career, even if they don't have any experience yet?
I think my MBA was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And the reason is because I want to be a chief product officer when I grow up. At least that's what I say.
I love that.
And it gives me a perspective on how to run a whole entire organization. You don't necessarily need an MBA to be a product manager, but if you are, but for me, that was my goal, was to be a chief product officer, to run an organization. But I also wanted a different perspective about life, about, all the different people around me, what's going on in the world and so forth. What I would say is please persevere. That's what I've had to do. Don't give up. I mean, if you apply for a job and you don't get it, that's okay. Rest, pause, but then go back at it again. That's how I got to where I am. That's how most people get to where we are. But please don't give up. Just keep going. And the other thing I want to mention is this: every challenge and every setback I've ever had has led me to the right place, to the right time, to the right job. Every challenge and setback I had led me to Chicago, which led me to meeting the love of my life, which then led me to moving to San Jose, California, where I am today. And I am so thankful for those unanswered prayers. It didn't feel like it back then. If you had told me back then, oh, this job disappointment that I'm crying all over for not getting, I would have thought it was the end of the world. No, it wasn't. It actually led me to other places. So if a job doesn't work out, it just wasn't meant to be. But continue, because the right job will come along and it will put you into the right place where you need to be.
Ronkee, I'm so proud of you. I know I'm just meeting you today, but I'm so proud of all of your efforts, all of your achievements, and also how you wake up every day to help others be great. So I'm proud of you. I want to congratulate you on your success thus far. If anybody wants to connect with you, ask for some advice, or even just to follow your journey online, what is the very best way to connect with you?
I am on LinkedIn. Just look for Ronke Majekodunmi on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Feel free. My website is ronkepm.com. You can send me messages through there as well. I have tons of blogs and podcast interviews that I've done, and I'm interviewing other product managers and other folks in product management space, so that we can offer same advice, so that, to give a lot of women of color, men of color, who see getting into product management as a black box, that no, it really isn't a black box. You can get into this field. Here are the things, the tools that you need to have. So feel free to visit my site.
Thank you so much for sharing those links. We'll definitely check you out. And in the meantime, I thank you for your time today on the Chundria Show. And you take care over there in San Jose. Send me some of that sun.
Thank you so much for having me,
Chandra. Thank you, Ronkee.